CBS News Minnesota just got an opportunity to talk to Senator Amy Klobuchar there. Let's listen.
Yeah, Senator Amy Klobuchar, kind enough to come in here and talk about this situation. Senator Klobuchar,
Excuse me.
I know that you have a former staffer whose child was actually in the mass.
Yes.
Tell me about that, because I know you've spoken to the mom.
I have. Kate Nyland and her daughter Cora and two other children were in there. There were so many families. The kids were packed into the church because it's the beginning of school. It's the all-school mass. It's little kids. Imagine, preschool to 8th grade. Her daughter was one of the older ones, literally witnessed several of her friends shot in the stomach, in the neck. Once they got out, she personally told one of the dads of one of the friends that had been shot that her friend had been shot. You think about
this 12-year-old child.
Yes, and you think about them in there scrambling to hide literally under the pews, having just been praying, and then the next thing you know, shots are coming through these windows. They're stuck inside. I know we're going to hear heroic stories of some of the adults in the room. Several of them were shot. We know that. We know of the 2 8- and 10-year-old killed right now. We know there's 14 kids injured, several seriously, but we also know there were at least 3 adults that were shot as well and have survived. And so we don't know if they were part of the service, if they were teachers, but I'm sure we're going to hear the stories of how lives were saved.
Did Kate give any more details that her daughter shared with her?
Just that the massive horror of watching these kids get shot and then laying down underneath these pews trying to save yourself. That's what they had been instructed to do, which was the right thing. And I don't know the details about, as the chief shared, about the doors being barricaded and how many tried to get out and where they were shot. But I do think the fact that we have such great hospitals like Minneapolis Children's nearby is going to save lives. You think about these parents whose kids are right now on the operating table. They dropped them off at school like so many parents do. I remember dropping my daughter off on her first day of school, bringing her to the bus, bringing her to the school.
Was this their first day?
I'm not sure about that. I bet it was in the middle of the week, but it's that feeling of that first week of school where they're going back and they're excited and they have their new teachers, and to have this happen to such a beloved school. And as you and I were talking about, this isn't some isolated school. It's in a neighborhood with other schools around and high schools and
Washburn
parents
High School
walking.
is right there. There are little businesses there. I mean, it's a wonderful community, where everybody kind of walks around and knows each other. One of the things, obviously, that people are going to focus on is that now it was here. Now it was Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Now it was South Minneapolis. Obviously, this has happened so many times before.
You think about so many, and by the way, so many of these shooters kind of fit this profile of a person. It's in Uvalde, Texas, all those kids gunned down in the classroom, and in Buffalo, while the facts are different, the guns may be different, they were young guys that maybe shouldn't have had access to those guns. And I'm not here talking about hunters in Minnesota and parents hunting with their kids. I'm saying there must be some way, with all of the resources available to our country, that we're able to figure out on the automatics, which may not have been used here, but clearly those should not be in the hands of kids. And even some of our more conservative Democratic centers at least supported some age limit on, say, 21 of getting those guns. Then you have doing something about just mental health checks and more on background checks. We just don't know the details of who this person was. I don't. But it's never one size fits all with these shootings. So I can't help but lead to, as you first instinct, of course, is we've got to do everything we can to support these doctors and nurses saving the lives and support law enforcement and do everything we can to support this community. But there's got to be another piece of this. And the other piece of this is what we have to do about stopping these mass shootings. Because Nashville, Tennessee, and a school there, as I mentioned, Buffalo, Uvalde, or what we saw at the Pulse nightclub in Florida, or the school in Connecticut. Minnesota is not alone here. This is not about one state. This is about states across the nation that have seen this, and in other countries, when they put certain laws in place, they've actually had better results.
I know that you have been expressed concern about the kind of rhetoric that is out there. And obviously, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves here, but the rhetoric is pretty heated right now. What are your thoughts about that?
I believe that this rhetoric is contributing to, I'm not going to say this specific thing because you never can tie it in until you know the facts. I think back to some of these things like when Speaker Pelosi's husband was hammered, and that there was a clear
there was an attacker
through line.
Who literally came in the house and attacked him.
Right, there was a clear through line to what that person was reading on the internet. I think about some of the shooters in Buffalo, Uvalde. There was a clear through line to them engaging in sites where they were trying to get these guns purchased that were automatic and were marketed to them and the like. Clearly, the internet has made things available to people and information available, and people who already may be off balance, but they see this and then they keep fomenting in it. And so the anger and the hate, some of which is constitutionally allowed, that is for certain, but that anger and that hate is part of the issue here, because people just need to tone down their rhetoric. They need to look at actual solutions across the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, when it comes to guns, and acknowledge that this is not going to hurt hunting, it's not going to hurt lawful gun owners if we have better background checks, or if we do something about who gets assault weapons, or if we do something about ghost guns, which are common right now. We don't know how he got the shotgun, the rifle, and the pistol. We don't know if he purchased them himself or he just took them from somewhere. Sometimes it's lock boxes. The fact that we don't know now actually gives you a chance to step back and say, we know in every case the facts are different, but can't we agree that we can do some things that aren't going to hurt lawful gun owners, that could actually prevent some of these things from happening?
What stings and is so horrible and haunting about this one is Mayor Jacob Fry said, you know, we're beyond thoughts and prayers. I'm paraphrasing now. These children were literally praying. And that, to think of them in their pews for a mass celebrating start of school. But it's...
Well, one of the most frustrating things is everyone, when things happen, they say, what can we do? And they immediately help those involved, obviously. Yeah. But repeatedly, that's where it ends. Yeah. And I just believe that there's more we can do. And I'm not just talking about our state. I really am talking about nationally, because so many of this things could be better handled if we had some national rules in place. That's what he's saying there. The other thing he said was, which I thought was so moving, was when he said these are everybody's kids. They could be your kids. And so I think the tendency sometimes is for people to say, well, you know, anyone would have this reaction. Well, I'm so glad my kid wasn't in that school. I feel bad for these parents, but I'm so glad. But then you have to start thinking, but my kid could be next if we don't do something better. I've led the school violence funding bill with former Senator Hatch that actually passed in the wake of the some of the other shootings years ago. And we got that done. We have a very robust grant program to help schools with better security. I know there's going to be a talk about this, but when there are so many guns out there and we're not doing anything to try to rein in who gets them, you're going to keep having these shootings regardless of that. I am more than happy to continue to work on school security, to continue to work on mental health and all the things that matter, but I'm telling you, you cannot protect against every single thing that a madman might do, as we learned from the deaths of Melissa and her husband. But at some point you have to look at, well, let's see what other countries have done on guns that haven't interfered with hunting, and let's see if we can be better.
Senator Klobuchar, thank you so much for joining us to address this horrible tragedy.